Good morning, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and as usual, every Wednesday I'm here for an hour to share Stonemaier Games news, to answer your questions, non-spoiler questions, of course, and to talk about a variety of random topics. What do we have on tap for today? I played a bunch of games recently, and I'll throw those out there real quick. And actually, I often forget to talk about my chocolate of the day these days, even though I definitely eat chocolate every day. And today, I think it's going to be uh, some combination of Ferris chocolate covered peanuts and chocolate covered almonds. I like to have a little bit of milk chocolate in the morning, a little bit of dark chocolate in the afternoon. Just personal preference there. Good morning, George and Tim. Thanks for joining me today. Tim, I hope your new baby is still doing well. Um, some games I played recently. Played a bunch of different games yesterday, or recently. Yesterday I played Maglev Metro for the first time. I played the new Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion at game night last week. At our virtual game night, I played Six Nimmt and Simillo. And just last night, I played Flesh and Blood. I played a couple games of Flesh and Blood. I never played this new collectible card game that's on the rise, and I wanted to give that a try. And also, we're still playing a lot of role player adventure. We are now on the 11th scenario in role player adventure. Still loving it, and still loving how like all these decisions that we've made in earlier episodes are coming up in later episodes and will probably impact this final climactic episode that we're about to enter. Really excited about that. What have you been playing recently? What have you played over the last week, the last weekend? Let me know in the comments here. See a lot of variety of people joining us today. Dominic said that he just got the Great Western Trail second edition from their BGG Secret Santa and learning how to play it now. That's great. That's great. Yeah, I've only played the original game for that. Tim does say that his new daughter, is doing well, and he says, "Hope my dad and my cats are doing well." They are. You can't see Biddy is just out of frame here, but Biddy is sleeping on the chair right here. And Walter has a new bed. Walter has been really, really excited about his new bed, often running down the hall to it and settling down in his new little cat bed. So it's nice to see him finding a comfortable place there. Tim asked, "How is Aquatica?" So Aquatica, I actually played a few weeks ago, but the video about Aquatica just went live yesterday, and I really enjoyed it. I love that Concordia mechanism where you play a card from hand, and eventually you play a card to bring all your cards back to hand. I love that mechanism, and there's some other cool stuff along, like with that mechanism. You have these tokens that you get to use whenever you want, and they deactivate, and then you can reactivate them whenever you refresh your hand as well. That's a nice twist on that mechanism that I really enjoyed. Tiago says that they're playing War or Peace campaign for It's a Wonderful World and really enjoying it. And George said that his copy of Tapestry Arts and Architecture has arrived today. Yeah, our fulfillment centers are still working through that. Thank you for all the pre-orders. It's great when we have enough pre-orders that they can't be shipped right away to everyone, but they are being shipped every day to all the pre-order customers. And they should. Champion fulfillment should be finished by the end of this week, and then early next week, our fulfillment centers should get to non-champion fulfillment for the new expansion. Mitchell said that he also just played 3 plays of Arts and Architecture last night, and it sounds like he enjoyed it. Nathan says that his friend Brandy got a Secret Santa video from me. Yeah, someone, I can't remember who requested it, but it might have been you, Nathan. I can't remember, but someone asked me if I could make a quick video wishing someone Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays for in relation to their Secret Santa gift that they were giving, and so I filmed a quick video for Brandy and a few others. I got a few requests like that this year, and it's always fun to do that, to surprise someone with a quick video appearance. Darren says that he taught Vampire the Masquerade Rivals to a friend this weekend. Nice of you to teach that, Darren. And Mike says, Mike asked, have all champion orders for Tapestry expansion gone out yet? They So the word that I have from the Fulfillment Center in the U.S. is that they are working through orders, and they should be done by the end of this week with champion orders. In Canada, Canada is still impeded by mudslides. So mudslides have actually prevented the expansion from getting to the Fulfillment Center hub trotter yet, and so we're still waiting for those expansions to actually arrive in Canada. We're hoping it'll be any day now, but those mudslides, I think those in Canada probably know much more about the mudslides than I do, but they are impeding, I think, traffic and shipping in many different ways, just as our containers are still stuck at port here in the U.S. Not the Tapestry containers, but some other containers that we've been waiting to arrive for several months now. Mitchell popped in here from Board Game Battles. Yeah, I had the pleasure of jumping in on the Board Game Battles podcast or YouTube channel earlier this week. Mitchell and his co-host Jeremy revealed that their pick for between Wingspan and Scythe was Scythe, and so I came on to comment on that and talk about game design and game development a little bit. And I also got to appear, this hasn't aired yet, I don't think, but I got to chat with Laura from Game on Tabletop, one of the other crowdfunding services like GameFound that specializes in crowdfunding for games, for tabletop games. And we had a wonderful chat last week, and I think that'll air in another week or so. Yeah, had a great time with that, learning some things from Laura about her platform. Nick says that he also has already played Arts and Architecture 3 times. That's wonderful. Thank you, Nick, for playing so quickly. And Zach says, is Aquatica a game you would have considered accepting for Stonemaier Games if you were pitched it? I can't remember if it actually plays up to 5 players. If it does, probably, yeah. I mean, it flows really, really well. I love the flow of the game, the feel of the game, the art of the game. Yeah, everything about it, I think, is... Obviously, the publisher deals with the art, not the designer. But the theme and the mechanisms are definitely in the style of Stonemaier Games. Yeah. Alex says that he just bought Tapestry, Pendulum, and Scythe for his collection. And it sounds like a special collection, his library's collection. He can't wait to get them circulating and sharing with his community. That's wonderful, Alex, for you to buy games to share with others like that. George says that he's really happy with how the new Europe store that we have is up and running. He says everything is running smoothly and the interface seems improved along with the user experience. He says, I get real-time notifications about the order on my phone synchronized with the shop. Yeah, that's one of the really nice perks about this. In the past, when we only had one web store, Joe, bless his heart, Joe, twice a week would export all the orders for a specific region and send those orders in a big spreadsheet to that fulfillment center, and they would fulfill those orders. And that's why order fulfillment information was never synced with our web store. It was always kind of sent separately to the fulfillment center. Now it's all synced up. So Joe doesn't have to do that export anymore. Rather, when an order is received in, say, in the UK and anywhere in Europe, our European fulfillment center, Spiral Galaxy, they see the order and they may not be able to deal with it right away, but whenever they're able to deal with it, that information goes into the system. So you're able to see it, they're able to see it, we're able to see it. It's so much better. So it's been quite a process to make this transition. Thanks to Joe and Alex and especially Dave, our web developer, for making that happen. Yeah, it's been great to see that in motion. What else has been going on? My video this past week was a video I filmed for an event called Playful by Design. And the people at this event put together a great list of questions for me to answer. And so I answered the questions on a video for them. And then I think after the event, I waited until after the event to actually post the video. So if you're looking for a wide variety of questions about game design, some about Stonemaier Games, a little bit about me, but mostly about game design and development and publishing, you can check that out on my YouTube channel from this past Sunday. I also did some pretty big blog posts. Took quite a bit of time to put these blog posts together, but one last week was me trying to highlight Black, Indigenous, and people of color voices in the game industry. Artists and designers and content creators. I have a long list, definitely not a comprehensive list, one that I'd love to continue to grow and expand. If you have any suggestions for it, feel free to mention it. Probably not in the live comments here, but maybe on that post in the comments there would be wonderful. And also did a post this past Monday, one that I've been contemplating for a while, where I wanted to help journalists who have not been aware of modern tabletop games and the rise of them and the popularity of them, the sustained popularity of them. It's not something that's happened overnight. It's been going on for quite some time. And wanted to fill them in on a lot of information. So about like the various terms that we use in the industry and what they mean and how the process works. Because I often see, all too often, I think it's wonderful when I see a journalist, a non-tabletop journalist, talk about tabletop games. That's wonderful. It's a way for us to expand the hobby. But all too often, they don't quite talk about it in a way that is quite right, is quite accurate, and really is not often the best representation of what is actually happening. Like they might say something like, a designer had an idea for a game, and the next thing you know, it's published by a publisher. Like there's a lot that goes in between those two steps, and the idea, for example, is hardly anything like that. You know, it's the execution of that idea that really matters, and all the steps that follow that the publisher coordinates. Anyway, so I wanted to write a helpful article for those journalists, and so it's there now. It's on the blog. It's permanently there. I can add to it over time, and I found that it's actually somewhat helpful for people who are non-journalists who want to learn about what that process looks like. That's on the blog as well. Let's see. Oh no, Darren says that a friend of his had a heart attack. I'm so sorry to hear that, Darren. That's really terrible. Well, I'm glad it sounds like that he survived and that he's going to have an operation any day now to fix that. Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, Darren. I hope your friend's okay. Tim says that he was happy to see that Stonemaier titles are appearing at his beloved local bookstore, Your Brother's Bookstore, and I'm so happy that worked out. Like I think we had this conversation a few weeks ago where I was like, all they need to do is reach out to Alex, and Alex will help promptly. And lo and behold, a week later, the games are already there. Sometimes, if a retailer is having trouble getting games from distributors have a lot of different clients to work with. Sometimes it's easier just to go directly to us, and we can help. Especially if you're in the U.S. We don't have fully had that set up in non-U.S. regions yet, but in the U.S. we can definitely help out with that. One little fun thing I did this past weekend is a group of friends of mine has this cookbook club where they pick a cookbook, and once a month or once every couple of months, everyone in this club, it's just very informal. Each person picks a dish and they bring it, and we have a dinner together, or they have a dinner together. I've never done it before, but I wanted to join this thing. Megan and I both wanted to join and give it a try, and so this past weekend we each made a Mediterranean dish. I tried to make pide for the first time, Pide. It's something that I've had in St. Louis here at a place called Balkan Treat Box. Really, really delicious there. My version was okay. Definitely needed some work, but it tasted good. It looked a little different than I thought. It's basically like a Mediterranean pizza, but it looks like a boat. Um, and there's tomatoes and eggplant and feta cheese on it instead of a typical like melted cheese, and some red peppers too. Really actually quite tasty. I was just comparing it to like a group of the people, the chefs at Balkan Treat Box who have mastered it. But everything else was delicious. Someone brought these really delicious potatoes. There was homemade baklava, really, really fun. I have the swordfish and scallops. I'm mostly vegetarian, but I eat fish every now and then on special occasions, and this was a special occasion. So I had a lot of fun with that. I don't know if any of you have ever tried something like that, a cookbook club or a cooking oriented night where everyone brings a dish based on a certain theme, and you each kind of cook your own thing and share the other dishes that everyone else has made. And Megan also made a really tasty dish with lima beans and asparagus and artichoke hearts. That was really tasty too. Todd says that he got his wife the complete viticulture games and expansions and all the stuff back when Rolling Realms rolled out. But Todd says, unfortunately, that her gift is in the container that is buried right now. So he's creating a box that represents all these things that will be delivered in hopefully the near future. And Todd, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, it really has weighed on me so much. And I know that's nothing compared to you wanting to give this to your wife and not being able to give it to her yet. The thing that weighs the most, I mean, it's one thing for the containers to be buried, or to be slow to arrive, but it's another that we thought they were going to arrive, that we were told that the delivery was scheduled, and then to have that rescinded, and to have these let customers place these orders for things that still haven't been delivered 2 months later is crushing to me. I don't like doing that. I don't like having you asking you to pay for something that or having paid for something that we can't deliver yet. So it's going to be increasingly rare in the future that we ever do that. Obviously, we made an exception for the tapestry expansion in Canada because we did thought and still think that it will be delivered in the near future. Hopefully, those mudslides will be cleared away. But yeah, I'm so sorry about that, Todd. And I'm glad you've had fun, hopefully creating a representative box of all the stuff that she will get in the near future. And I can't wait for those containers to arrive. Scott says that he just grabbed Wingspan at his local game store, and his 11-year-old daughter absolutely loves it and beat him 77-69. That's awesome, Scott. I'm glad you had a fun first game with Wingspan with your daughter, and congrats to her win in the first game against you. That's awesome. Quinn says, since I live in St. Louis, where do I love to eat? He says, I used to live there for 2 years and worked for Charlie Gito's. He missed some toasted rab. Do they have the best toasted rab, do you think? I need to try that. I may have tried it, but I can't think of it. I'm going to post in the comments a document that I use for recommending food in St. Louis to people. So if you're ever in St. Louis, it's broken down by category and location. So Quince, check out the Google Doc that I just posted in the comments below if you're curious about my favorite food in St. Louis. There's a lot of it. That's why I can't just say one thing. It really depends on maybe your preference and my preference too. It's highly subjective. Mary says, is role player adventures good with just two people? Megan and I have played the whole campaign with just two people, and I find increasingly that as much as I love like larger group campaigns, like the King's Dilemma, I would definitely want to play that with more people. But it's really easy when it's just you and the person you live with to sit down and play a campaign game. And yes, we've loved it. It scales really well at different player counts. I think I could have enjoyed it at higher player counts, but at two, I have really, really enjoyed it. The discussions we have when we're trying to accomplish a skill test or combat are great. The same thing with the discussions about the key choices that we need to make in the game as to who we're going to ally with. The whole thing, yeah, it works really, really well at two players, Mary. I highly recommend it there. The thing that I'm going to be a little torn up about after I complete it is, as much as I love the game, like right now it's probably my number one game of 2021. I don't want to play through the campaign again. There is a side quest thing that I can do. There is an expansion that I could add, but I'll probably end up giving this game away. Probably to a friend at first. So I'm struggling with that. I always struggle with that with campaign games that are replayable that I love, even though I probably know that I won't play it again. Sleeping Gods might be the exception to that because there's a whole area of the world that we haven't even seen in Sleeping Gods. So we'll probably play that again someday. But Role Player Adventures, we have seen a lot of stuff, and it'll be hard to give it away because I love it so much. But I'll probably need to do that. I don't need it sitting on my shelf after this. Amazing game. If you were looking for just what I think is probably the best adventure campaign game ever made, playable over 11 games, I highly, highly recommend Role Player Adventures. Tonk says that they discussed the possibility for AI machine learning to test for balance in addition to playtesters. I know data analysis is part of the testing process, but have you ever considered AI machine learning? I mean, I would love for that to be a thing if someone is able to create that. I mean, the tough part about that is when full AI digital versions of our games are made, the AI portion of it is really hard, I think, for developers to figure out. And that's just for one game. They spend a lot of time figuring out the AI just for one game. And so to have that ready in time to test a game, I think would be very difficult. Maybe someday we'll get to the level of AI where you can just like enter the rules for the game, like run the Word document for the rules to a game into an AI program. The program can instantly learn how the game works and start running scenarios. If we get to that point, absolutely, that would be amazing. But up until that point, it's someone like teaching the computer how the game works, which takes a lot of time. So I think there's a pretty big roadblock at this given time. Eric says, now that pre-orders of the Tapestry expansion are shipping, when do you plan to start discussing the next thing for Stonemaier Games? Eric referenced a specific name here, but who knows? We don't know exactly what's next, and I don't know yet. I don't want to speak too soon because freight shipping is such a big part of when we decide to start announcing stuff at this point. So it really depends on when we think we are going to receive the next product. Yeah. What else is going on? I'll go back to comments in a second. Had a good playtest the other day. Really good playtest for a product that I've been working on for quite some time. This afternoon, oh yeah, I want to mention I am going to do a Rolling Realms live play this afternoon. I've been doing them mostly Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, unless I think last week I forgot to do it on Thursday, so I did it on Friday and Saturday. But usually Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I'll do Rolling Realms live plays in the afternoon. So I plan to do that later this afternoon if you want to join in for a live play. Things that we've been watching. We've been enjoying the show Champaign, Illinois as our lunchtime comedy show. We're watching the morning show. We're watching Hawkeye. And I just watched the movie The Postman for the first time. Apparently that in Megan's family, that was a beloved movie in their family from Kevin Costner. I had never seen it. And I thought it was actually pretty good. Has certainly some problematic things in it, but they were problematic back then, and I thought they were addressed in a decent way in the movie. But yeah, it was a pretty enjoyable movie. And what else? Oh, Also, I had two random drawings recently. One involved people who bought or filled out a form related to the Wingspan speckled eggs, and six people won $50 gift cards to our web store. Those people know who they are. I've emailed them already. And for those of you who, thankfully, gratefully, I'm grateful that you filled out our 2021 demographics survey that was in our recent e-newsletter. Thank you so much for doing that. I really appreciate it. And I picked five people from that pool to give $100 gift cards to our web store. And I did contact those people yesterday. So if you did that and you were hoping to receive the gift card, you would have heard from me yesterday about that. So congratulations to those people for being randomly selected for that purpose. Tim says that he wished he would have played Charterstone with just his wife. He says only one game. He's only one game in since earlier this year with five people. Yeah, that's the tough thing about campaign games. When you try to play with a bigger group, it becomes a little difficult. And so it's made me value more and more campaign games that really maybe at their heart they play at two. They're designed to play at two, but they can be played at higher player counts if you have someone else who's available. Or campaign games where it's very easy to have multiple campaigns going at the same time. Yeah. Let's see. Steven says, in the recent open letter to journalists, you said that Board Game Geek is in the top 5,000 most accessed websites in the world. I am curious to see where this stat comes from, as it seems mind-blowing. I use, I'm going to spell this word so that my Amazon product doesn't trigger, but there's a service called Alexa, and it ranks websites for how often they're visited. Looks like I clicked on the button right now. I have a little extension in Chrome for Alexa, and Facebook apparently is number 6, the number 6 most visited website. Bojan asked if we're going to ever explore a restaurant-themed game or a restaurant themes for games, and I don't think we have anything restaurant-themed in the works right now. Mark says he's been playing some solo viticulture lately and really enjoying it. Hats off to Morton and the Automa Factory team for that. Mostly Morton. Morton was that was the first Automa that he designed for Stonemaier Games. He says he's also playing Shifting Stones. I have not heard of that one. Shifting Stones, no. Is that an abstract game? What is that one about? Garden says, do I foresee a time when a designer puts their latest game up for bidding between publishers? That's interesting. If a bidding war like we see in movies. That would certainly be interesting to see. Yeah, I don't know. I think a designer would have to have a lot of clout and a really, really great game to be able to do that. But I would admire any designer who decides to do that. To say, I'm as long as they're transparent about it. If they say, hey, I've sent this game to these 3 publishers. All 3 of you seem interested in it. Who wants to pay me the biggest advance, or who wants to pay me the most royalty, the highest royalty? I think the flip side of that, though, is to a certain extent, in fact, probably a much bigger extent. Like if there's one publisher willing to pay 7% and a 7% royalty, and another is willing to pay 8%, that difference might be negligible or considerably different depending on how well that publisher markets that game. And so any designer can look at a publisher's history and see this publisher has made big hits out of these games, and maybe not made big hits out of these other games that they have, and compared to the other publishers they're considering. And so whereas like one publisher might only offer 7%, which is not only, like that's even, I would say that's average for publishers, that if another publisher is willing to offer more, but that publisher sells 50,000 fewer copies, you'd much rather go with the 7% publisher if they're going to sell 100,000 copies. Yeah, so I think designers do have a lot of information going into that process where they're kind of having a little bidding war in their head, I think, sometimes if they have a game that they think could be accepted by multiple publishers. Dusty is here from the mill. He says, I know you were playing the finale of Real Player Adventures recently. No spoilers. We actually haven't played it yet, Dusty. We hoped to play it earlier this week, and we didn't get to it. And so we have game night tonight. So we actually have to clear it off our table and put it underneath our game table where we should have been playing in the first place, but didn't think of that. And so we haven't played the finale yet. I don't know how the finale is going. I know you are starting the campaign. How's it going so far for you? Dusty did ask, how many deaths or full party exhaustions did you have to go through throughout the campaign? So we hit kind of a rough patch maybe in game 3 or 4. I think it was 3 or 4, maybe both, where we died 3 times, and we realized that what rule did we have wrong? We had a little rule wrong. I think about maybe the number of cards that we were allowed to play or something. It was a little thing that we should have caught. It's very clear in the rules. Um, and that probably influenced it a little bit, but we were also kind of pushing our health a little bit too tight. We weren't resting as often as we should have. And so we died a few times. We got a little bonus for dying, and then we haven't died since. And I don't mind that at all. I don't think that's a measure of the game's difficulty. The game is kind of setting you up not to die. It has a lot of safeguards in place so that you don't die, even though there's a lot of still difficult and interesting decisions to make. So we died a few times, I think 3 times, and have not died since episode 4, as far as I can remember. Edgar says, I ordered the Tapestry expansion, but I will be on vacation from the 21st of December until the 2nd of January. Will the game be sent back, or can I pick it up somewhere? My first time having a game coming while on vacation, so a bit stressed about it. Well, Edgar, hopefully it'll arrive before then. That would be ideal. If it doesn't, I mean, generally I would recommend ordering to a place that you will be. I know right now shipping times are very uncertain. You don't know exactly when something will arrive. But Edgar, I think there's a very good chance it will arrive during that time. And feel free to contact us so that we can maybe help facilitate to ensure that happens. If you've already placed the order, I think that the odds are very good that it will arrive before you leave. If you're worried about that, though, feel free to contact Joe at StonemeyerGames.com, and he can kind of maybe push the fulfillment center to prioritize your order. I don't want to say that too much because I think in general this is maybe a little bit part of the customer's responsibility to choose addresses where you will be or where it can be received by someone. In the old days, I would say have it delivered to your work because even if, for the most part, even if you're not there, someone's going to be there at your work to receive it. But now, especially during the holidays and during COVID, I don't know if that's as good of a suggestion anymore. So hopefully, Edgar, the other part is maybe have a neighbor check on it. So if you get a delivery notification and it's after the 21st, could you have a neighbor check and pick up the package for you? That would be my other suggestion here. But I would wait a little bit. I would wait maybe a few more days. Wait until the middle of next week to see if you get that shipping notification and that delivery estimate date because you may not have to be worried about it at all. Yeah. Connor says, do I have any Kickstarters coming? I'll answer this in 2 ways, Connor. Just in case you're asking if Stonemaier Games is making any Kickstarter campaigns, we don't. We haven't done Kickstarters since 2015. So we are not creating any campaigns. If that's what you're asking. Do I have any Kickstarters that I backed coming in the near future? And I have no idea. I mean, I just kind of wait for things to magically show up these days. I do have a few Kickstarter games that I want to play. Let me look over at my shelf over here. Yeah, the two that I would say I'm the most eager to play, maybe I'll even try to get one to the table tonight, is Herbaceous. No, not Herbaceous, the new one. Floriferous, and Vowel. Very curious about Vowel because it's a letter word game, which is usually not my bag at all, but it looks gamified in some really interesting ways that I definitely want to try it out. So I have those games on my shelf, received recently from Kickstarter that I want to try. Mark says he can't wait to get his orders shipped with Arts and Architecture expansion in the Terra Mystica promo realm. Yeah, I actually did my first playthrough with the Terra Mystica promo realm last week, and I will definitely make sure that's included in one of my Rolling Realms live plays this week. Mark also ordered Viticulture Rhine Valley and more visitors. Thank you so much for doing that, Mark. I appreciate that. Hopefully your orders will get shipped later this week. Corey says that he was able to get 2 brand new board game friends, brand new gamers into Wingspan this week, and he's working them up to Scythe. That's great, Corey. That's really great. Thank you for bringing new people into the hobby. That's always wonderful when I hear people who are welcoming others into this wonderful community, this board game, tabletop, modern game community that we have. Tim, thank you for mentioning that. This is the one last thing that I almost forgot. He said, happy anniversary to Between Two Cities. We did, this past, what was it? Today's the 8th? Yesterday was the 6th anniversary for Between Two Cities. The retail release date was in 2015, December 7th, 2015. So if you have Between Two Cities, feel free to check it out. Or get it to the table this week and to celebrate the anniversary. I might try to get it to the table tonight at game night. And if you don't have it, feel free to check it out. It's a wonderful game. A really, really clever game. I think it's the first game that, it's rare that a completely new mechanism comes along, and Between Two Cities has one of those mechanisms where you are partnering with a player on your right, and left to build a city with each of those people. In a tile drafting game. Tile drafting is not new, but the partnership element is. But at the end of the game, you only score the lower of the two cities. So it means you have to really balance the relationships between these two cities throughout the game. You can't just tank one of them. You have to focus on both of them, and you score the lower of the two at the end of the game. And so it is a competitive game that includes partnership. So it has this cooperative feel to it, even though it is still a competitive game with one winner. Mark says that Shifting Stones by Game Right is a very cool tile game. 3x3 grid with tile flipping and pushing mechanism. I will have to check that out. Thank you, Mark, for recommending that. I've never heard of it. Mary says that I should send role player adventures to her when you are finished. I'll probably give it to a local friend first before maybe I venture into that, because it is such a big game. It will be quite expensive to ship. And so hopefully there's a local friend who's interested in playing it, but maybe I'll consider that someday. It is definitely an expensive game to check out, but I think it really is worth the money. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience to play through Role Player Adventures. Scott says, oh, yeah, Scott mentions Obsession here. I just got my copy of Obsession with a couple expansions very kindly sent to me from Dan at Kayenta Games. Scott has Obsession and Night Cage on pre-order, just waiting for them. Have I played these titles? I have played Obsession once, and I'm looking forward to getting the copy that I now have to the table in the near future. I have not played Night Cage yet, though. Well, I'm already caught up on questions, and we're only halfway through the livecast here. Let me know what you want to know. I'll go through my topics again in case they remind you of anything. So I talked about games that I played recently, which are Maglev Metro, Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion, Role Player Adventures, Six Nimmt and Similo on Board Game Arena, and Flesh and Blood, a collectible card game. I also had a playtest last week of a product that I can't mention yet. I had my video this past week was about answering questions about game design, Playful by Design. Between Two Cities expansion, or Between Two Cities anniversary, not expansion. That wasn't a slip. That was truly, there's no expansion to it. Anniversary was yesterday. I'll be playing Rolling Realms. I'm doing a live play this afternoon, and talked about a cookbook club that I was in this past week. Talked about chats with Board Game Battles and Game on Tabletop, and mentioned that we had some winners for gift cards for people who filled out the demographics survey and who bought speckled eggs recently. And recent blog post, one that is helpful to journalists who don't know much about modern tabletop gaming, and one kind of sharing a number of BIPOC creators and voices in the industry with other people to help. Hopefully they can gain some new subscribers, gain some exposure. And these are channels that I really love. Like I subscribe to most of the channels that I mentioned. I have worked with and actively paid a number of the creators that I mentioned, the artists, the designers, photographer, many different people on that list. The sculptor, yeah, there's some great people on that list if you're looking to work with someone who is amazingly talented. So check out that list that I posted last Thursday. Let's see. Tony says, yeah, Tony's usually first to comment, but he had work today, or he has work today. He says, did I miss the chocolate of the day? And I went with Ferris chocolate covered peanuts and almonds. I'm kind of been munching on both of them recently. Stefan says, any hints for upcoming realms for Rolling Realms? Well, I can say that we printed 3 of them up front. One was the Terra Mystica realm. Another is the Rolling Realms realm for Rolling Realms, which I haven't showed yet. I've just said that we've made that one. And there's another one that we've also made. I will reveal that when the time comes. We've already made 3 of them, and I've been working through a lot of playtesting for new batches for upcoming Stonemaier games and a number of games from other publishers. So those are in the playtesting process now and maybe early art graphic design process, but they won't be ready for like 6 months. So we're going to spread these out, probably do them like the ones I already have, probably do them every 2 months until we start to receive more of these new promos. What else is going on? Quinn says, have I played a game that I can never pronounce correctly, Nidavellir? He says he just played it with his wife and friends. He says he lost horribly, but still loved the game. I have played it on Board Game Arena. I have not played it on person yet, in person yet. So I really did enjoy it on Board Game Arena. Scott says, have I read or watched Wheel of Time, and what am I reading lately? I've read most of the books of Wheel of Time. I think I read through the first 6 books, and then I just read summaries of books 7 through 13, and then I read book 14. And we are watching it. Yeah, we are enjoying the show so far. Todd says, Stonemaier shirts on the store. Are there Stonemaier shirts? Currently, we don't have any Stonemaier shirts on the store. We make shirts specifically for ambassadors, and we kind of get together pre-orders for them, and then we make a big batch of shirts. And once a year, we have a new champion shirt that comes out, and we do a big batch for that as well. Mahir asks, what does my t-shirt say? Yeah, this is Coffee, Beans, and Board Games. I forget where I got this shirt. Let's see if it says on here. Fueling midnight gaming since the beginning of time. But I can't remember where I got this shirt from. But I do love it. It's a really nice quality shirt. I actually just bought a shirt the other day from Thinker Themer that I haven't gotten yet, but I'm excited to get that shirt. I love the Thinker Themer channel, and I'm excited to get my shirt. I debated between a couple different colors, ended up going with a blue that looked good. Almost went with a green. Hopefully it was the right choice. But yeah, I'm excited. I'll wear that on a future live cast. Do any of you have any board game shirts that you really love, both in terms of the graphic design and the fit? Like, I'm kind of a stickler about having a really nice feeling material and a fitted shirt. I like that feel quite a bit. I think the two go hand in hand, both the design of the shirt and how the shirt actually wears. I think that's really, really important. I have a blog post about this, of course. But let me know if you have a board game related shirt that you really love. Dusty says, what is the most exciting product or accessory someone has pitched to you that you just cannot justify making? There has to be something really cool that has come up that does sound awesome, but just doesn't make sense to produce. That's an interesting question, Dusty. Well, I do remember years ago, a game was submitted to us that had a catapult in it. And I don't know if it would have made sense as a Stonemaier game, but I was not confident that we could make a catapult component. I am sure Panda could have figured it out, but it's so much more in like the toy category of making sure it works the first time and the 100th time and the 1000th time that you use that catapult that I was not confident that we could pursue that. That's something, I'm sure there's some cooler stuff that's come along, but that was a pretty cool component that I think another company actually ended up making. There are a few games that have catapults, but I just wasn't confident that we could do it at that given time. Even now, even just like playtesting a catapult. How do you playtest a catapult? Like, you have to get that thing exactly right. I guess we could use like the monkeys from Coconuts to test the game. But yeah. Darren says, will I play Arnak without the new expansion? For me, this expansion or the variable player, Facebook scroll past. Oh, he says, Darren, I absolutely disagree with you here. Darren says, for me, this expansion or the variable player board should have been in the core game. I heartily disagree with that. I think there was plenty of stuff in the core game for plenty of replayability, plenty of different locations and tokens and monsters, and the double-sided board. They had a double-sided board right out of the gate. I think there was plenty of replayability in the Lost Ruins of Arnak core game. I think the expansion also does some nice things. It adds a new double-sided track that you can add to the game if you want. It doesn't actually add it replaces the current track of the game. Definitely, for me, an expansion component, not something that should have been in the core game. The asymmetric leaders. In the core game, I think in deck building games, Darren, we've actually researched this a bit. I think people actually prefer not having asymmetry in deck building games. People, I think in general, from the data that I've seen, they like starting from the same place as other players and growing outwards and building their engine outwards from there. So I think Lost Ruins of Arnak definitely did the right thing by not having asymmetry in the core game. It's a great thing, I think, for an expansion, for a deck building expansion to add rather than having in the core game itself. And the expansion just has like more stuff in it. And so a lot of that stuff is just shuffled in. You can use that stuff in every game. That's really nice. And so in those regards, yes, every time I play Lost Ruins of Arnak, the more stuff will be in there. But I didn't expect that more stuff to be in the core game. I think there's plenty of stuff in the core game as it is. But that stuff will stay in there. I will probably play with the asymmetric characters whenever I play Lost Ruins of Arnak, especially with people who have played before. If it's a new player, I don't know if I would play with or at least I wouldn't have them play with it. I'll have to look in the rulebook to see if I can play with it and not them. But that might be a little overwhelming for them because they really leaned into the asymmetry. It's not just a different starting deck. You have your own like special player mat and special abilities, special rules reference. So it might be a little much for a new player. Chad says, how much do I think theme factors into a game's success and longevity? He says Scythe, Wingspan, and Viticulture are the top three Stonemaier games on BGG, and their themes are so different. Yeah, they are. I think theme matters quite a bit. I don't know if a specific theme matters though, but rather like decent thematic integration. A theme where you can explain something in the game using the theme to have it stick. I think that is a good thing in games. To have a distinctive theme, I think, can also matter. Like I think when people saw that Scythe box for the first time, it captures your imagination, or at least it captures mine. So I think that matters. For longevity, I don't know. There's lots of games with really cool themes that haven't become evergreen games for various reasons. I don't know, gameplay mechanisms, theme. The rule book has a big impact on that. How easy is it to get to the table to teach and learn? And marketing, like how many copies did the publisher make? How well did they sell it? So I think a lot of things go into making an evergreen game, and theme is one of those elements. Mark says, what game would you like to see a realm of, not part of my current lineup of future realms? Well, Mark, let me. So one of the. I think I'll mention two realms that we tried to get the publishers to let us make realms for very recently, and the publisher said no. This is not a knock on the publisher. I completely understand them saying no, but I think this is a fair way for me to answer this question. One is, I think, Mark, you were the one that recommended this and even designed a realm for it, was Tiny Epic Galaxies. And Gamelin said no, they weren't interested. And the other one, a game that I really, really love, is Everdell. I would have loved to make an Everdell realm, but Starling wasn't down for us doing that. So maybe someday they'll change their mind. But for now, those are two that I would have loved to make realms for that we weren't able to do because the publishers weren't interested. And again, totally get that. Totally get that. There are many reasons a publisher would say no to a random publisher contacting them and saying, hey, we want to pay you to make a realm, a random promo realm for your game. So I get it. I was hoping, in that we are not asking publishers to do anything. Like they really don't have to do anything at all. We will take care of the design. All they have to do is sign an agreement that says it's okay for us to make this realm, and we pay them money to do it, a one-time flat fee. It's a pretty easy way to say yes, but I can still understand why publishers might say no. Quinn says his friend and him do a podcast where we ask guests what movie has moved them. What movies have moved you, and would you like to be on your podcast? We can do it over Discord, so you can do it from home. Quince, thank you very much for that invitation. I'd say maybe, yeah. Generally, I will say yes to any like gaming related podcast. I don't know if a movie related podcast is a way that I should spend my work time, but I love that you do that. That's wonderful that you do that. And so I'll try to answer the question right now. Maybe let's see. What is a movie? So in my early 20s, Fight Club was my favorite movie. I was not a fighter by any means. There are many different themes in Fight Club. I'm also not an anarchist. But there's so much and so many like really great lines packed into Fight Club that it had I think a pretty big impact on me. It really, really did move me. I cry at a lot of movies though. Whenever there's like a big emotional moment in a movie, when a crowd supports a character who has the courage to stand up and do something brave, I am moved. I am touched. Moved to tears often in those moments. I remember crying in one of the Spider-Man movies when like Spider-Man does something and the crowd gets excited about it. That's emotional for me. So I would say a lot of movies have moved me. What's one recently that really touched me a little bit? I'll look at my movie list. It's an ongoing list of all the movies that I watch. What is one that recently touched me or moved me? I watched some kind of bigger budget movies like Shang-Chi or Red Notice. I really enjoyed them. I wouldn't say they particularly moved me. Dune, the cinematics moved me. Promising Young Woman definitely got under my skin. I think that was a very powerful. Yeah, that moved me in a different way, not to tears, but to I don't even know how to describe it. Promising Young Woman. It's just a really, really powerful movie. Free Solo was amazing to watch. That moved me in ways as a novice climber. Watching what Alex did on those mountains was incredible. I was probably the last time I was probably moved to tears, which I know isn't your question, but it's how I'm answering it. Was the Derek Delgadio movie In and of Itself? It's a documentary style movie where it's essentially just watching Derek do this show that he did in New York, a magic-ish show that he did. And there are some really powerful moments in it. Really, really beautiful, powerful moments. So I'll say that. Derek Delgadio in and of itself will be my answer for that. Tony says, he's wondering my opinion on expansions to a game eventually running their course. For example, his group really enjoyed Castle Panic way back when it was first released, and the second expansion for it really improves the game. However, we felt that each subsequent expansion actually hurt the game, even though Tony bought them. He never uses them. Do you have a game that you've expanded and then contracted back? That is interesting. I do have one example of a game like that for sure. But in general, and I'll mention the game in a second because it's a game that I love, and I still actually love one of the other expansions. But yeah, it's interesting. We did our demographic survey recently, and the two things that people were most excited about hearing from us were brand new games and expansions for games they already love. Those are the big things. That was the number two thing: expansions for games they already love. So people, I think, want expansions, but maybe they don't actually always want them. I think sometimes like people still ask me for more Scythe stuff. We're not making more stuff for Scythe. Scythe is complete. It's done. I think that's an asset for Scythe that is done. But I think there's still people who are excited about the game, and the way that excitement manifests is they want more stuff for it. I get that. So I don't know. I have to balance that. That aspect there of trying to figure out what consumers really want or what's best for them, while also listening to them and hearing what they want from our games. The game I'll mention that has two expansions, one of which I really enjoy, even though I don't always play with it, but I really enjoy, and one expansion that I will never play with again, and that is Isle of Skye. I love Isle of Skye, but the Journeyman expansion tried to do something very different with the game, very ambitious expansion, but it turned it into a completely different game. And I love Isle of Skye, and so if I love Isle of Skye, I get an expansion for Isle of Skye. I really just want to continue to play Isle of Skye. Maybe it was just a slight twist, maybe more stuff. Maybe you can fix something a little bit that was in the core game, even though I can't think of anything that I would fix in Isle of Skye. The expansion I do enjoy in Isle of Skye is Druids. I still don't always add that because I played the core game of Isle of Skye so often that those rules are completely intuitive to me. I don't have to look up anything to play the core game of Isle of Skye. Whereas if I was going to pull out Druids, I would have to refresh myself a little bit on how to play through that. But yeah, I totally see what you're saying, Tony. I'm sure other people in the comments can think of examples. I don't want this to go negative, but if anyone has thoughts about expansions in general, without being negative, feel free to mention them in the comments below. Just be constructive. Garden says, do solo games sell as well as multiplayer games? So solo-only games. I don't know, Garden. We don't have any solo-only games at Stonemaier Games. We do have that. Most of our games have solo modes, fairly robust Automa solo modes. And I'll throw out our demographic survey information again. I learned from this year's demographic survey that 13% of people who follow Stonemaier Games primarily play games solo, which I know is the minority, but that's still a pretty big chunk of people. Over 4,000 people responded to this survey. So that's a significant number of people over 400 people who say that they primarily play games solo. Quinn says his favorite board game shirt he got his niece a shirt with a screaming gorilla, and it said, "You can't heal in Tokyo." That's awesome. I like that a lot, actually. That was really clever. I like little nods to gaming shirts like that, where it's kind of funny. It's kind of an inside joke. It doesn't look too much like this is a nicely designed shirt. I'm happy to wear this out in public. There's some gaming shirts that don't feel that way, but that is a really clever shirt. Chad says, building on my Arnak response on how people don't like asymmetric players and deck builders, why does it work so well in Dune Imperium? I do understand that you are not cycling the deck as much in Dune, but curious to your thoughts. That's a great point, Chad. You're right. That's a little counter to my point that in Dune Imperium, I do enjoy the asymmetry. I think maybe the key for Dune Imperium is that your deck is the same. It's that one card, that signet card, that has a unique ability. That, to me, is a really clever innovation because it means you don't have to sort through a bunch of different decks during setup. Each player gets the same deck. There's just one card that triggers a unique ability that's on your player mat or your character mat. That is really, really clever. Why does it work there? I don't know. I think maybe with Dune, there are so many characters with very different motivations and abilities. I think it just works so well with the theme. But I would gladly play Dune. I think I would have fun with Dune without that. It's just maybe a little helpful in Dune to have, it's essentially giving you an early game or something to pay attention to when you were trying to figure out from all these different options what to do. I think that is where the asymmetry helps Dune a little bit. And other games often have the style of asymmetry where it's a little more subtle, where you have a private objective, or you have a unique objective. It's not really an ongoing ability like there is in Dune, but there's this little thing that you can pay attention to if you want to give yourself guidance early in the game when you're trying to figure out what's going to be important to you in that game. I think that might be why it works in Dune. Scott says he thinks that rulebook readers and editors are the unspoken heroes in the industry. A rulebook can definitely make or break Scott's and my enjoyment in a game. Absolutely agree, Scott. Yeah, I think about rulebooks all the time. We're going, yeah. Well, I'll share this later for an upcoming product that we have, but we think about rulebooks and how we can make them better all the time. And I agree with rulebook editors and proofreaders. In fact, I'm waiting for an email from a proofreader right now who's looking at a rulebook of ours. Alex says, here's his impossible question to answer. Which expansion should I get as a gift for Christmas? Secrets and Soirees, or Plans and Ploys, or Arts and Architecture? Just one is possible. That is tough, Alex. It really depends on what you want. Which game do you think you're more likely to get to the table? Between Two Castles or Tapestry? So that would be the first choice. Which of those do you think you'll get? Is this a gift for yourself or somebody else? So whoever it is, if it's you or someone else, which game are they more likely to actually get to the table? Arts and Architecture is the most expensive of the bunch. So if budget is important, you might factor that in or knock that one off. Arts and Architecture is also the newest one. So if the person really values being part of the cult of the new and talking about the new exciting thing, that would be the one to go. I would say if they are a mischievous person, if they love being sneaky in games, then I'd go with Plans and Ploys because it does add a lot of sneakiness to the map interactions in Tapestry. Let me know if that helped, Alex, and if not, I can try to further expand my answer. We're talking about Dune Imperium. Tim says that he just got Dune Imperium. Still one of my favorite games of all time. I will always play Dune Imperium. I love it. And really, Lost Ruins of Arnak, I really, really enjoy that expansion. Maybe I'll get that to the table tonight. I need to start making a list of the games I need to get to the table. I mentioned Lost Ruins of Arnak with the expansion, Vowl or Floriferous, or Between Two Cities. Maybe I'll put those on the table tonight to see if people are interested. Quint says that his younger brother is Seth Van Orden. Okay, that makes sense, Quint. He's the publisher and designer at Nauvoo Games. He might be interested in doing a Rolling Realms. If you'd like, I could reach out to him. Thank you for offering that, Quince. I would say right now, I really appreciate that. I probably will. I know Seth. Seth has attended our design day here in St. Louis. I will reach out to Seth if we have a good fit in the future. I think it could be, well, the Reckoners would be tough with the IP, but I always say that Stockpile is one of the few stock games that I really enjoyed. So, and it's highly numbers based, so we could do that for Stockpile. Currently, we have so many in the works that I need to maybe take a little break from doing some promos after I get the dozen or so that we have in the works into production. But I will definitely keep that in mind. Thank you for bringing that up. Seth is a really, really smart designer, so I'm sure he could think of something clever for the realms. Mark says, has there ever been any thought around modifying the Wingspan concept to another arena, another theme with different mechanisms, but still card-based tableau style? We have heard a lot of ideas about that, Mark, certainly. Yeah, we've heard people mention dragons and dinosaurs and fish and bats and other themes for Wingspan. And Wingspan is such a big game that it is certainly something that's on our mind of exploring someday. Yeah, because people clearly connect with the mechanisms of the game. And I think there are other themes that can fit into the kind of the collector's feel of the game. You have this feel of collecting all these birds, these beautiful birds. So there's that feel of that in Wingspan that I think could apply to other animals. You mentioned endangered as a category here, endangered birds. There are endangered birds already in Wingspan. I think one of the promo packs that I'd love to do someday, if Elizabeth is up for it, is to do extinct birds. A few birds, a promo pack of birds that are extinct that unfortunately we can no longer see in real life, but we can include in a game that is about birds. Chad says that he just teared up watching Gwen Stacy die in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Oh, should have said spoilers first there, Chad. Although Chad did say spoilers, I just didn't say it. He says the tears could have been from how bad the movie was too, but I just teared up. You thought The Amazing Spider-Man 2, was that the first trilogy, the second movie, the one with Dr. Octopus? I thought that was one of the best Spider-Man movies. Maybe this is the second trilogy. Yeah, I don't remember much about the second trilogy, to be honest. Yeah. Remember Electro was in there at some point? Sandman, I enjoyed seeing Sandman, but I liked him as a villain. Tim, I still haven't watched Hellbound. Tim, it is on the list, but he says there's a part in Hellbound that really got to him. I will let you know when we're finally able to watch that one. Dusty also loves the movie question. He says, I haven't watched it in a while, but he's unsure how it holds up. But A Time to Kill, he says, deeply affected him and still holds a special place in his heart. Great acting by Matthew McConaughey, Samuel L. Jackson, and Sandra Bullock. I need to watch that again. I remember that being a very good movie. It's been a long time. Has anyone watched that recently to see if it holds up well? Rob says that he agrees entirely about expansions. He says, often I quite like the simplicity and ease of playing a base game, which is inevitably complicated by adding an expansion. On that note, I've resisted buying Tuscany because I like the gameplay of Viticulture as it is, although I'm curious about Tuscany as everyone says it significantly improves the gameplay. I like saying that Viticulture stands by itself, but if you love Viticulture, I think you will also probably love Tuscany. It's a modular expansion, and really the heart of Tuscany is the extended board. And the extended board it's very intuitive to learn. It is not a lot of rules overhead, and once you learn it, it will stick with you and will actually flow even better than Viticulture. I think having 4 seasons instead of just 2 worker placement seasons flows really well. I always love hearing people that they enjoy the Tuscany expansion. It always stings just a little bit when people say that uh, they can never recommend Viticulture without Tuscany, because I think Viticulture really does stand by its own. As you said, you enjoy Viticulture by itself, but Tuscany is special too. I think it's a neat expansion. I'd recommend you give it a try. I think if you like Viticulture, you're going to enjoy Tuscany, and it is very easy to add in. Even if you ignore the structures module, which I love, but it's very easy to ignore, or if you ignore the special workers module, very easy to ignore that as well. But that board extension and what it adds, I think, is what draws people back to Tuscany time and time again. Uh, let's see. Chalmers recommends, let's see, a tea turtle shirt. Let's see what this shirt says. Friends who slay together, stay together. I like that. That's a cute shirt. Has some cute like animals dressed up as warriors on it. That's cool. Tony says it can be complicated to decide if you want to try an expansion. It can be even more difficult when, like Jamey's situation, the first expansion really isn't great, but then a second expansion comes out and it is totally awesome. That was the Isle of Skye situation I mentioned, because Journeyman was the first expansion to it, and then the next expansion was Druids, and I really love Druids. But I kept hearing from people that Druids is really good, so I did end up buying it and giving it a try. Chad says that Scythe is his #1 favorite game, and he really appreciated the Rise of Fenris expansion because of all the variety that the modules let you mix and match. I thank you, Chad. That means a lot for me to hear that. I thought I'd hear a lot. I hear that people love the Rise of Fenris expansion largely because of the campaign. I haven't heard people say as much that they love the modularity of it and being able to have all these modules that they can mix and match into the game to find like their perfect formula for Scythe. But maybe people talk about it in the Scythe Facebook group, and I just don't see it as much as I should. A few more questions here, and then I'll call it a day to go have lunch. George says, how important is it to start writing the rules of a new game as early as possible? Does it make a big difference in the development process? And is it reducing the overall time to be published? I think it is really important to go through that rule writing process. I learn things as I'm writing rules. I'm like, oh, this thing is way too complicated to explain. This should impact the design. I will change this element so that it is easier to explain in the rules. But like there's a game that I'm working on right now, and really the time for me to write the rulebook is when I'm about to go into a new wave of blind playtesting. Until then, so much can change that it is not a good use of my time to write the rulebook, because, and even during blind playtesting it will change, but I need that rulebook to share with blind playtesters. So I don't write the rulebook all the time, not consistently. I wait until I'm ready to go into a new wave of blind playtesting. Tim says, Charterstone Realm question. If you've crossed out 5s and you get another 5 later, do you have to use another die to mark it off? You do indeed. You do indeed, Tim. Yeah. Tony says, what would be the food types for Viticulture the Dragons, if there was ever a dragon version of Viticulture? He says, I'm putting out my silver dragon, and here's 2 dwarves and an elf and a human. The idea I had for this at one point, because I did think about it, that I do love dragons. I don't think we'll go this route for Wingspan, but where each row is kind of a cavern, and there are dragons hanging out in that cavern. And so you are sending an adventurer through that row to take care of all your different dragons, to kind of make it a little less abstracted than a cube. have like a little adventure token that you were sending through that row. And you could even have different adventurers. So you have to choose a specific adventurer to go through that dragon row and activate all the dragons that you've added to that cave, that cavern over the course of the game. I don't know what the resources would be. Probably gold at some point, maybe gold and gems, things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I debate trying that someday, but right now we're not pursuing a Wingspan Dragons game. Okay, Chad's clarified that that's the second Andrew Garfield movie, which I don't remember at all. Yeah. And Tim says that he's one of the people who thinks that viticulture is excellent on its own. But Tim says he can still play the base game and have a lot of fun. And to add to that, Tim, I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for saying that. And also, whenever I teach viticulture, I absolutely teach the core game. And I would not recommend to people, I think this often comes up in discussions. People say, okay, should I start out with Tuscany right away? And no, one of the joys I think of expansions is that you take a game that you already enjoy and you get more stuff, you get new stuff. That I don't want to ever take that away from someone for any game, whether it's our games or one of another publisher's games, of taking away that moment of going deeper into the game. And so I always recommend starting out with a core game for any game, and then later, if someone enjoys it, later adding the expansion to them. Yeah, so even if you always play with Tuscany and you're introducing viticulture to someone new, I recommend using viticulture first. And if they love it, play a few times with them, play viticulture a few times, and then they can have that moment where the world gets even bigger with Tuscany. That moment itself is what I'm talking about. That moment I think is special and joyous, and I like offering that to people with expansions, great expansions. All right, little overtime today, but I enjoyed talking with you all. These are great questions, great conversations today, and I will go ahead and post this up on YouTube and go make lunch for myself. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you next Wednesday. Take care. Bye.